I believe that the general counsel at the department would be better able to address your question.
But this is just about law. I mean, I understand that the IG isn't the one making those legal announcements, but if you learned that intelligence agencies were wiretapping American citizens because of their political views, is that in violation of U.S. law?
The department IG only conducts oversight with regard to the department. And if your question is limited to the department, it's possible that the Inspector General may have a role in determining whether or not those agencies.
What's up, Patriots? Welcome back. You've got to see this. In a recent hearing, Representative Elissa Slotkin, yes, the one who often reminds everyone about her CIA background, tries to corner Platt Mowing, President Donald Trump's nominee for Inspector General. Right from the opening moment, she's leaning forward, voice sharpened, throwing out sweeping hypotheticals. The tone? As if she's trying to paint him into a corner, basically framing the question as, "Are you going to serve as a rubber stamp?" It feels like she's fishing hard for a viral soundbite. But Mowing doesn't take the bait. Calm, steady, and composed, he sticks to the role and the law. No dramatic reactions. No emotional back and forth. Just measured answers. While the questioning pushes into speculative territory, he keeps redirecting to what the position actually requires. It turns into a striking contrast, one side pressing with pointed hypotheticals, the other staying grounded in legal responsibility. As the exchange unfolds, you can sense the frustration building when the expected gotcha moment never arrives.
He gave a very broad definition of what domestic terrorist organizations were, including descriptors like anti-Christian, different views on the family, religion, and morality. There's also reports that the Department of Defense is participating in an interagency weaponization working group made up of people from Department of Defense, from the CIA, Department of Justice, FBI, IRS, to go after the president's adversaries or enemies. As the Inspector General, you would be expected to, flag issues of law and investigate, deeply problematic issues. If a Department of Defense intelligence agency, like the NSA, DIA, the service intelligence agencies, Army Intel, were to target American citizens for their political views and collect on American citizens, is that in violation of the law?
Senator, my answer.
Just press your mic if you could. And maybe it's just over here. I can't. It's on. Okay, got it. Sorry.
Senator, the answer to the question has to do with the role of the Inspector General. I believe that the general counsel at the department would be better able to address your question.
But this is just about law. I mean, I understand that the IG isn't the one making those legal announcements, but if you learned that intelligence agencies were wiretapping American citizens because of their political views, is that in violation of U.S. law?
The department IG only conducts oversight with regard to the department. And if your question is limited to the department, it's possible that the Inspector General may have a role in determining whether or not those agencies followed their own policies.
But just this is an issue of law. I mean, so let's say the National Security Agency, which does wiretap, SIGINT, and I'm a former CIA officer, work with them all the time. Let's say the President of the United States tasked them to wiretap people who were attending the No Kings rally in Detroit, Michigan. Would that be legal for the intelligence community, the DoD intelligence community, to target American citizens for their political views?
Senator, I appreciate your sentiment and your concern, but it's not within the remit of the Inspector General.
But it's law, right? I mean, I think in general, and I would hope this would be a bipartisan thing, that the idea that our intelligence community, of which I was a proud member, would be turned against American citizens because of their alleged political views is as fundamental to who we are as anything that I've seen come before this committee. And I want you to say, separate from what your remit would be, I want you to say publicly that we're not going to turn agencies like the CIA and the NSA and all these things against the American people. And you are the last line of defense. You are an IG, quite literally, overseeing conduct of the department. So if the intelligence agencies were asked to surveil American citizens, what would you do? Would you open an investigation at a minimum? Would you push back at all? Or is it just okay now? And God forbid, right? God forbid that this is just kind of the way we're going to be. The president says these are domestic terrorist organizations, and so we're now surveilling American citizens because of their views. I would hope my Republican colleagues would find that just as repugnant as me. I want to hear you say that you know that that is against not only the law, but our values.
Senator, I really appreciate your concern, and my sentiments are with you, but it's not my role to have personal opinions. I'm guided by the facts.
Representative Elissa Slotkin came in with sharp, high-pressure questioning, leaning heavily on her intelligence background and framing a series of sweeping hypotheticals. Her focus was on getting clear, declarative answers about issues like surveillance and domestic terrorism, the kind of responses that can quickly turn into headlines. Platt Mowing, nominated by Donald Trump for Inspector General, took a very different approach. Rather than engaging the broader hypotheticals, he repeatedly emphasized the limits of the Inspector General's role. His point was consistent: the IG's job is oversight of departmental policies and procedures, not issuing binding legal interpretations. For legal analysis, he deferred to the department's general counsel. In other words, he stayed tightly within what he described as his lane. That contrast defined the exchange. Slotkin pressed for definitive statements: is it the law? While Mowing kept returning to process, jurisdiction, and statutory responsibility. Supporters would likely say that shows discipline and respect for institutional boundaries. Critics might argue it was overly cautious or evasive. Either way, it was a clear stylistic divide. When the discussion turned to American values and intelligence experience, the rhetoric sharpened. Slotkin framed her concerns around constitutional principles and civil liberties. Mowing's closing response that it's not his role to inject personal opinions reinforced his theme of neutrality and adherence to the defined scope of the office. In the end, what viewers saw was less a meltdown and more a fundamental disagreement over how the Inspector General role should be approached: expansive moral framing versus strict procedural restraint.